Hi, Simon. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you. It's really cool to be here.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you on. Looking forward to talking about CRM, iGaming, and of course, Fast Track. To start off with, I thought it'd be great if you could give us a bit of a background about yourself and the company.
Wow, cutting it short. I've been in the gaming industry for as long as I can remember, and I've been on the operator side pretty much all my time before Fast Track was the first sort of time when we started doing on a provider side. Was with Betfair for a long period of time, and then I was with Betsson Group for a long period of time, and that was a really good learning experience coming into this. And Fast Track, which was founded in 2016, we're obviously super active in redefining the CRM space in the iGaming industry right now.
What was the idea behind setting Fast Track up? Did you see CRM in action and think, this needs some work, there's a gap in the market? What was the idea?
No, that was pretty much exactly what happened. We sat down and we were like sort of looking at this. And this was early in 2016, and the gaming industry was in a super exciting place at that time. I'm sure you remember around 2014, 2016 is one of those eras where there was just so much casinos being launched in the market, and a lot of casinos, like there was so much movements happening in terms of player experience in general. There was in terms of the game studios, the aggregators in how you were communicating with players, bonus platforms, gamification systems. There was a real differentiation to work with player experiences. And when we stepped into this, we were quite shocked, to see how little had happened in the CRM space in relation to how much innovation had happened in the gaming sort of industry as a whole. The sort of CRM aspect of the operational aspect of CRM was unchanged for 10 years, and many of the platforms are on standstill still today. So I mean, you can imagine bolting on all of these different experiences from a player perspective, where you're working with more providers in games that you've ever done before. You have more complicated and complex and exciting gamification programs and bonus and rewards platforms, and your operational procedures are sort of just growing, but they were just piling up on one of another, right? And there was no system or no way. The teams and the systems were completely disjointed, so the operational process was huge. Like there was a massive operational burden building up, and this is pretty much like I'm coming on to how sort of Fast Track came to be in this as well, because that was just a massive issue, and we couldn't see ourselves working like that ourselves when we were involved in that space. So there was really no way we could tackle it in that sense. It was just piling up, and the operational debt became too heavy to burden to carry. Coming on to sort of how Fast Track, the idea around Fast Track, I think we had quite different mindset from any other platform in the market that was offering any sort of support, CRM sort of solution at the time. And it's actually really hard to compare Fast Track to any CRM platform in the market today at all, because we have the platform is probably the closest you come to building something internally. Then Fast Track is sort of the alternative to that. There is not so much, when you get to know us and when you get to know the platform and how we work, there is not really any other platform that compares to Fast Track. We are not really in the same space. So we wanted to redefine CRM. That was like sort of what we wanted to do. And we had a huge motivation around digitalization and sort of fixing the operational processes in iGaming operations. And at the same time, having this sort of long-term vision where we're looking at building a self-learning engagement platform. We felt that, the distribution cannot possibly be like sort of trying to have individuals in an organization matching up what campaigns are going to which player or what type of engagement you're sending at any given time. It cannot possibly scale like that. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm coming on to a little bit sort of the cornerstones that Fast Track's sort of philosophy and our method is built on, is that the first thing that we identified was obviously data. The traditional way of working with CRM was to have a data transfer that happened every 24 hours. That was the first, like, sort of, that doesn't make any sense, in the way we were delivering player experiences, working in entertainment where you need to engage with people when they are on the site. This is like real-time data is an absolute requirement. It's a fundamental aspect of a successful player engagement strategy. And then the second part was sort of, I told you about this, that the teams and systems completely disjointed. So there was these huge barriers between different teams, right? And then there was all of these systems that was being used for reward platforms or for communication or for all sorts of different things. And they weren't talking to each other. So we needed to sort of bridge that in the infrastructure as well and say that, well, we both need real-time data and we need central orchestration. You need to be able to do sort of everything from one place so that you have the option to automate, you have the option to do these things in a better way. And then the last point is process. Like when you start building these experiences, like the way people were working, it was just wasn't working. So we had to redefine working process in that as well. So real-time data on one central system and the right process has been our sort of way of achieving scalability. That's been how we have been explaining to operators that needs to happen as a fundamental sort of starting point before you can do anything else.
In today's iGaming landscape, what exactly, and you mentioned a few things there, but what exactly does the customer want? What exactly does an operator want? And what are the biggest pitfalls in delivering this? What are the kind of challenges you have to work around?
It's a great question. It's capturing a couple of different things that you said there, because I think the motivation in the industry is super clear. All right. At this time, the motivation is super clear. We want to automate. We want to do a lot of automation because we have noticed, in particular after regulatory frameworks, like in how that's been adding additional operational burden on top of us. We want to automate. We want to create one-to-one experiences. Very important. We want to be able to be very sort of one-to-one in our engagements with our players. And number three, we see this sort of the opportunity around AI, right? And we want to harvest that opportunity. So that the motivation in the industry is super clear. Like it's sort of the path there that has been that we are helping to sort of get operators across, right? So the motivation is super clear. What was the second part of your question? Sorry.
In terms of the challenges and the pitfalls of obviously in an ideal world you can deliver all these things straight away, but
yeah, I get back to that. So the thing is, like, the motivation is really clear around one-to-one experiences and the ambition to work with AI and automation. The thing is, like, we sometimes try to take shortcuts in this process. So we try to run, straight to the destination instead of actually stopping for a second and asking ourselves, is our business currently set up, to be run this way? Because it's quite a big difference, right, between having a completely manual, non-analytical sort of organization potentially that is like sort of stepping in and then suddenly want to transform that into a completely data-driven organization based on automation and AI. It's the path in between that I think, and a lot of learnings has been made in that. You have a group of operators that I think have done a lot of work internally. So they invested in internal platforms. They thought, like, there is no solution in the market, just the way we felt. And they said, like, we're going to build our own internal systems in order to overcome this. We're going to create those data capabilities. We're going to connect the systems. They wanted to be in control. They did that really well. But then you had a lot of other operators as well who maybe didn't have the capacity to do that or was looking outside for a solution. And there is like very hard to find something that is just going to, which you can just bolt on. By the end of the day, it's an entire organization that needs to change with you. So you need to have that mindset going through all the way. So that's definitely one pitfall. The other thing that I think was a misconception was that personalization. I mean, we've chosen one-to-one experiences like for a reason. We don't call it personalization. It's definitely personalization, but we wanted to call it one-to-one experiences because we wanted to look after the interest both of the operator and the person that you're targeting and speaking to. I mean, if I would ask you exactly what do you want, you would give me a certain answer, right? And that's one reality. But I also there is two parties to this, right? Like I also need to be able to give you within reasonable sort of frame. I need to be able to provide you what I want within the frame that I want as well. So we chose to call it one-to-one experiences. And sometimes I can feel there's been a little bit too much focus on what the player wants rather than looking at, well, both parties in this relationship, because by the end of the day, we need to look after the bottom line. We need to make sure that we're building long-term relationships, but also a sustainable business, right? So that's also an interesting learning. And the last one, which I find very interesting, is that you have, when it comes to data science, and I think like the more we talk about this, now we're going to step into data science and AI. I think organizations are learning that now is that you're not going to be able to sort of outsource that like all the way. You're going to have to build internal capacity to manage for your own decision making. This is what it's about, building data models and AI. This is about decision making, and you can't really outsource that decision making. You can use outsourced solutions to support you, to bootstrap you, to get you up and running, but it has to be a conscious investment, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. You've mentioned CRM in iGaming and how it's changed over the last few years. How has Fast Track kind of played its part and fit into the picture there? And B, I'm also interested, how has CRM kind of in iGaming compared to CRM generally and in other industries during this time?
So like I'm not particularly interested in what the other industries are doing, because the iGaming industry is very different from any other industry, and that's what I love about it. There is so much complexity compared to sort of e-commerce or retail or any of them. Obviously, we are keeping a really good eye on if they're coming up with good stuff, you know, like we're obviously keeping that as a flow input, but we also have to recognize that the iGaming industry is very, very different. We have to manage responsible gaming and, you know, sort of those things. We have to manage risk from an operator perspective. This is like cash, you know, it's a cash business, right? There is an incentive to for people to do both the wrong things and have fun. So I mean, we have to manage that in that. So Fast Track we have sort of redefined CRM. With our sort of concept of real-time data, one central system and process, we were the first ones that moved in that direction, and we established that and we've proven that in the industry. And what essentially has happened from that as a very quick effect has been that we have managed to prove that you're more than 40% more efficient or effective working with the Fast Track sort of platform compared to any other platform in the market today. So I think that's like a super big milestone in terms of just proving that recipe, you know, actually works. We have to free up time before we can reinvest that time in sort of getting our organizations into this change, right? So what we have done is that we have launched something that we refer to internally as the Fast Track pathway, but it's really a methodology. It's a 5-step program, and we put all of our partners onto that program in one way or another, which means that we start by exploring how we can free up time, right? So we put Fast Track in as a platform, and by using the Fast Track platform with real-time data, one central system, and the right work process, we can cut back easily 40%, but in many times it's up to 60% of the time that is needed in order to execute the same agenda that you have done previously. We then take that time and we motivate as a second step that the operator reinvests that in automation. And then we are like, again, automating the distribution process, which means that the CRM teams suddenly has time for the creative process and start analyzing. So the third step in this is when we start looking at how we can find bright spots in what the operator is doing. And we try to find what works and scale that. And that's what we are then scaling into one-to-one experiences. So if we identify, for example, that you know, there is as easy as a preferred communication channel, that it's being prioritized in the best way. I mean, that's something that we have managed to prove, at least, that it's not always better to communicate on an SMS, for example. You can use other means, and you can do that very efficiently. And that's just one example of finding a bright spot. By prioritizing communication channel, we can create one-to-one experiences where we're sending, for example, that instead of something else. Same goes for different reward types or for tonality or anything like that. So scaling with one-to-one experiences is where it's at. And then ultimately leading to proactively be able to identify what to do in a self-learning environment where sort of if I do something, if the system chooses to do something, what does that have as an outcome over time? How is that going to lead to something over a longer term, which is the fifth step, which we call self-learning.
Wanted to pick up on your point about automation and CRM teams. Is there a chance that CRM teams can maybe see automation as a bit of a threat? What happens to them if, let's say, most processes are fully automated? You mentioned obviously they maybe have more time for creativity, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, but this is like they should embrace that change. Like in terms of working as a CRM team right now, the last thing you want to do, like you think you're hired in order to come up with creative concepts of how to engage players, but what you're actually ending up doing is to sort of, you know, endless deadlines that is just like trying to firefight to get the campaigns out on time. I mean, there's like automation is an absolute necessity in order for you to create a foundation as a brand to be able to grow from. And the CRM team, their team, you know, they're going to be able to focus on what they were there to do in the beginning, which is focus on the creative process, do analyses, and come out with conclusions in order to drive better engagement, not just getting the job done, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So that's definitely an opportunity for everyone.
Sure, yeah. And in terms of everything we've talked about, you know, we've delved into some very interesting areas in CRM and iGaming. Final topic I really wanted to discuss with you is sort of looking ahead. Firstly, Fast Track, are you guys working on any kind of new exciting products right now that you're getting into the market soon or whenever that may be?
We are actually we are about to announce some really big news in October. So it's going to come towards the end of October, but it's completely in line with, it's just us evolving with the program that we have set out, that we believe in, which are these different 5 steps. I think we have come a really long way in terms of, you know, setting up organizations in the right way in order to approach that next thing. And we are doing some really exciting product releases now, and we are going to make a lot of things happen in the machine learning and AI space, and it's going to go very quickly from here on because of the infrastructure and the position that we have assumed right now and what we have developed internally. So that I'm really excited about October when I can tell everyone about that.
Sure. And then looking a little bit further out into 2022, what are kind of your goals and Fast Track's goals for the year ahead?
We want to continue to sort of make sure that as many operators as possible get the opportunity to see what we have in store, and that we can obviously show them how this sort of reality can change how their operation is working and how they can transform their businesses as well. And it's like right now there is a lot of focus for us on really taking on the one-to-one and the self-learning experiences, and we're going to grow in that space. So it's a very intensive AI agenda, and how we're going to be supporting businesses to help them step into that, and providing them with the tech platforms and that allows them both to take advantage of what Fast Track can provide as a bootstrap, but in particular, how we can help them build efficient internal data science teams, and that can build their own and evolve their own models over time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like a busy year ahead, but certainly one with plenty to look forward to. And yeah, thank you very much, Simon, for joining us and for your time and your answers today.
No, but thank you very much. It's super cool being here, and I'm sure we're going to speak soon again.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thanks very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.